So I like to start off every class with 10 minutes of silent sitting, which is 10 minutes of meditation. And you can meditate however you like. You know, if you have like a favorite technique, you're more than welcome to do that for the 10 minutes. Um, what we do is we take 3 deep breaths to begin. First, I hit the gong. I found out that you cannot have an official meditation class unless you have a gong. So I got a gong. So I hit the gong, and then we take 3 deep breaths, and then we meditate for 10 minutes, and when the time is up, I'll hit the gong again, so you don't have to worry about that. So posture, you don't have to be in a lotus position. Um, just comfortable in a chair, whatever. You want to be your feet flat on the floor, and you want to be comfortable enough that your body is not distracting you, but not so comfortable that you fall asleep. Other than that, there's really no requirement. And if you don't have a meditation technique, one that I recommend is to just count your inhales up to 10. So you inhale, that's 1, breathe out, breathe in again, that's 2, breathe out, in again, that's 3, and so on up to 10. And when you get to 10, you just start over again at 1. So what tends to happen is your mind wanders, and at some point you find yourself on 112. And so then you don't beat yourself up, you just come back to the breath, start over at 1, and resume the count to 10 and back again. So this helps to train you in breath awareness, conscious meditative awareness of the breath, which brings about serenity and inner peace, but also it helps you to separate to drop all your baggage at the meditation door. So you just forget about everything that's going on today or this week, and just drop all of that off. You can pick it up again at the end of class. The universe will be able to keep going without you for 10 minutes, and so that's really the point. So I hit the gong, we take 3 deep breaths, and then you do a meditation counting to 10 if you would like, and then when the 10 minutes are up, I'll hit the gong again, and we just gently come back to our bodies. Alright, so 7, and I'm going to hit the gong 3 times, and we can close our eyes and get ready to take our 3 deep breaths. So, last week I talked about the talking school and the methodologies and techniques school. And the breath work, of course, comes under the methodology and technique. And we can't do like a laying down all out hour and a half breathwork session during the class, but there are like preparatory techniques that kind of go with, that you can use with some talking school techniques, and they kind of interrelate and can be used together. They're not usually presented together. Most people just do either talking or technique. I do both, and I'm always looking for ways to combine them. So one of the things to realize is that consciousness is one. We are all one. So you're never really in any kind of conflicting situation or in any kind of triggering situation. It may appear that way, but that's not really what's going on. That's always just the surface appearance. So as you go through your week, and like I said last week, something that only helps you when everything is perfect and you're in a quiet retreat center on your meditation cushion in the mountains in the middle of nowhere, but you can't take it into your daily life, isn't very helpful or useful or practical. So I want to give you things you can use in your daily life, and things that will ultimately teach you to breathe, to learn how to breathe from the breath itself, so that you don't need me or any teacher. And so when you're going through your week, if something comes up that stresses you out, or really anything that's not a positive emotion, like happiness, joy, bliss, love, peace, serenity. Like I said last week, negative emotions, people usually want to limit that to fear, hate, anger, resentment, jealousy, but it also includes minor annoyance, irritation, and boredom and frustration. Anytime that you're not feeling at peace, that's something you want to look at. And what we tend to do is we learn at a very early age to check out of our bodies and go into our heads, and we try to solve everything with the head, with conceptual thinking. And that's really the playground of the ego. And it loves to keep you in conceptual thinking, thinking about how to solve the problem, thinking about what is this person's motivation, why are they doing this. I could go into a whole bunch of examples, but to keep it short, well, let's say somebody the ego wants you to believe in separation, that you are a separate entity, a separate body-mind, separated from all the other 7 billion body-minds, that you live in a universe of separate objects, and that everything is impermanent, passing away and dying. The ego wants you to believe that. So one of the ways that it keeps that whole illusion going is by keeping you in a state of contracted energy, by making you feel under threat or in conflict, or just anything that makes you think that you are separate. And I know most people don't know that they aren't separate. Once you have seen through that illusion and you know that you aren't separate, then the ego can come along and offer you opportunities to believe in separation, and you won't fall for it because now you know it's not true. But what do you do in the meantime? Like I said last week, these techniques, even before you have full awakening, can make your life better and better each day, have less and less suffering each day. So what do you do in the meantime? What I'm saying is, as you go through your week, if something causes you stress or anxiety or annoyance or upset of any kind, instead of buying the ego's sales pitch, hook, line, and sinker, you are a separate entity and you're in conflict with this separate entity, and that's why this problem is arising. Just ask yourself, what if it's not true? Entertain it. Entertain the idea as a hypothetical possibility that what you're seeing now is not true, that it's a mirage, a movie created by you to get you to believe in separation. And that your perception is being influenced by your decision to believe in separation. First you decided that separation was something you wanted to experience, and then you created a movie, a mirage, that you could fall for, that would prove to you that separation is real. It seems as though on the surface level, in the apparent reality, that we look out, we see a bunch of separate people and a bunch of separate stuff, and we think separation is real. I'm just being rational. But the truth is, we decided first that separation was something we wanted to experience, and then we created that perception for ourselves. The projection makes perception. The outer reality that we perceive is a projection of our own internal consciousness. And so if you entertain the possibility that, maybe separation is not real, maybe this is not how I'm perceiving it on the surface level, then that opens up the mind to the possibility of a different way of perceiving. And you might see that what you had perceived as a problematic person coming at you, that you completely misperceived it, and it's actually they meant no harm at all. Or they might really be in your face, telling you, you're an idiot, and they really are attacking you. Because remember, from it, they are aspects of you. So you set this up with your other aspects to create situations that allow both of you to contract your energy and generate this conflict so that you can continue to believe in separation. So they are also working on their stuff. And when these situations come up, first there's a feeling, a feeling of tension or stress or some sort of feeling. And we tend to not want to stay in our bodies and feel the feeling. Feeling is healing. And that the body is a great barometer. It's like a really great instrument for finding out what's really going on. Anytime your mind is telling you one thing and your body is telling you something else, the mind is what's lying. So there's a tendency, just to give one example. Let's say somebody is in your face telling you you're an idiot. You don't want to feel that. The feeling that generates in your body, you don't want to feel it, so you go to your head. And your ego mind creates a narrative, a story around what's happening. And you might be thinking, how dare he? Who does he think he is? If you're like really enlightened, you're going to use logic and reason to try to explain it. You might tell yourself, well, that's not true, I'm not an idiot. You might tell yourself, well, he's obviously stressed out, probably has a lot going on at home. You try to come up with some argument that would explain the person's behavior or make you right and them wrong. And the problem with all of those arguments is they're conceptual arguments, and they're based on the limited body mind, which can't possibly know everything. So there's always an element of doubt. You're never really quite sure, is he calling you an idiot because he's having a problem at home, or does he really think you're an idiot? And did you make a mistake? Is he justified in saying that? Or even if you did make a mistake, it could be handled better. It's like you never get to certainty, any kind of real resolution when you leave the body and go into the mind. So what I'm saying is, when that happens, take any situation that causes you any kind of less than positive feeling. And it might be better to practice on minor things first before you try to tackle the big things with this technique. But really, whatever arises during the course of your day, because the ego is going to give you many opportunities every day to buy its sales pitch that that separation is real. And anytime you feel any kind of negative energy flowing in your body, that means you've bought into it. You've bought into something that is not true. So when it happens, instead of leaving your body and going into the head, take 3 deep breaths and go into your heart and ask yourself, remember that what's happening is a surface level appearance presenting you with a movie for you to watch and get propagandized, you could almost say, into believing that separation is real. So you close your eyes, you go into your heart, and ask yourself, is this really true? How do I know this is true? What if separation is not real? What if this person and I are one? And you feel the feeling. You allow yourself to feel the feeling, to let the feeling communicate to you and tell you what it's all about. I mean, like if you might have a situation like where the man is yelling at you and calling you an idiot, and you get this unpleasant feeling in your body. It might be because you don't like being called an idiot, but on a deeper level it might be because you're afraid you're not good enough. Or if you get stuck in traffic because the road department can't fix a pothole with, the story in your head is the road department can't fix a pothole without screwing up traffic for 6 hours. But if you go in your heart and you ask yourself, do I really know this is true? And do I really want to accept this invitation to see myself as separate from the people working on the road? And you go deeper into the feeling, and maybe what comes up for you in actual fact is you're going to be late for work and you can't do it. Life is too hard. You know, everything was going great. You were going to be at work, but now you're going to be late because the world set up this obstacle in your road and it blocked your way and you can't get through, and no matter how hard you try, you can't do it. You know, everybody else can do it, but you can't. You're not good enough. And all of these kinds of thoughts, like I'm not good enough, I can't make it, I can't do it, I can't. They're always, the implied in that is, I can't, I'm not, but everybody else can, everybody else does. Which again is an invitation on the deepest level for you to see yourself as separate, as a separate body, mind, separate from everything else. So you stay in the feeling, and probably the true nature of the feeling, and usually it's some form of fear. And the true nature is probably going to come to you in words, but resist the temptation to go into the head. It's more like you feel the feeling, and it should be as if you know what it's saying, but there's no words involved. You just know what this means. You know what's coming up. And then if, like, I were to come to you and say, tell me in words what that feeling means, then you could say it in words, right? It's like you translate the feeling into words in order to communicate about the feeling. And so you can do this to communicate to yourself about the feeling, but don't allow the words to take over. And when you do that, the feeling is going to be a lot closer to the truth than the story you tell in your head. The typical way, if something comes up that triggers you, you go right into your head, completely shut down your body because you don't want to feel the bad feeling. So you go into your head and you construct an airy-fairy conceptual narrative explanation of what's going on and why you're right and they're wrong, and you try to come up with some kind of justification for yourself, or maybe, you know, if you're a really advanced soul, understanding explanation for why they're doing what they're doing. But instead, just all of that is bullshit. All of that is surface level stuff. Just you don't even want to waste your time trying to figure it out with a limited body mind that can't possibly know everything and will never be certain of anything. So you just transcend all that. You go past all that. You go into the feeling, and you open yourself up to refusing to buy the ego's sales pitch, refusing to buy what the ego is offering you, and get into the feeling and feel the feeling and entertain the hypothetical possibility that maybe you are not a separate body mind living in a universe of separation, and that all this surface level stuff may not be what's really going on. And maybe what's really going on is you're being offered an opportunity to, you're having your fears brought to consciousness, because all this surface level stuff is created by projections from the subconscious. We're not consciously aware that we're doing this, but it's there. So you're being offered an opportunity to bring this stuff up to consciousness, so you can just basically laugh at it and, like, you know, well, I know that's not true, and you just laugh at it, and that transmutes the energy, and then you're free of it in that way, in that particular instance, and you become softer, like not so around the edges, where you're not so rigidly resisting the present moment. And you get all kinds of, so that's like what life does. It shows us a movie, and the movie is propaganda for the belief in separation. And every time we get triggered, that means we've bought something. We've bought something that's not true. And on the surface level, everything looks normal, like you're fully justified in being triggered because this person's being a jerk. But if you go deeper, and the only way you can go deeper is through the body and the feelings, using the body like a barometer to tell you what's really going on. Going into the heart, you go deeper into it, and you find out what's really going on is you have some negative belief that you believe, that you bought in your crib, in your mother's womb, who knows? But you bought this, and it's a controlling, conditioned mind pattern for you. And then if it wasn't there, you wouldn't get triggered. That's the only reason you get triggered. If you knew that you are one with the absolute and completely vulnerable, you would not get triggered. So every time you get a negative emotion of any kind, it's showing you some belief that's false that you've bought into. And so it's an opportunity to grow. And so this is like something you can do all during the week and just have fun with it, play games with it, look for opportunities to grow. Everything that comes up like that, minor or major, ask yourself, take 3 deep breaths and go back into your body and feel the feeling, and go in your heart and ask yourself, what's really going on here? Is it really true that I am a limited, separated body-mind that has to be in fear of what's happening here? Maybe there's another way to see this. And like I said last week, the egoic thought system arises out of primordial awareness. So that other thought system didn't stop just because you started thinking with the ego mind. It's continued, it is running along parallel tracks with the ego thought system. And anytime a moment like that comes up, a triggering event or a less than happy moment comes up, that is an opportunity to switch thought systems, to choose the other thought system, that this other thought system knows who you are, and it knows who you take yourself to be. And it will never speak to you according to who you take yourself to be. It will always try to gently remind you who you really are. And when you're buying the ego's sales pitch about separation, you're believing a thought system that is not truthful about who you really are. And if you just go deep into the feeling and ask yourself, do I really know this is true? Entertain it as a hypothetical possibility that maybe it's not true, and be open to perceiving it in a different way. And then watch how the energy transmutes and how the situation can literally, miraculously transform. So the breathwork technique that I wanted to talk about, that's going to link into this, well, Well, I guess we have to build up to it. So this is a technique of meditative breath awareness. And the thing about techniques is that they involve control. People tend to want to just control everything, breathwork teachers especially, or any kind of discipline like yoga or Tai Chi. There's a tendency to want to become a control freak and just micromanage everything and control everything. And that's valid. That the discipline is necessary and it works, but it's only half of the coin, half of the polarity. The other half is surrender. That's where learning to breathe from the breath itself comes in. You have to surrender. So it's like part control and part surrender. So the first technique, when you want to get into meditative conscious control of your breath, the easiest way to start is to start with how you already breathe. And most people breathe, they inhale, they exhale, and then there's a pause. Then they inhale, they exhale, and then there's a pause. So that's how, like, you're hardwired to breathe that way. And so the easiest way to start with any kind of meditative breath approach to breath awareness is just to start with how you already breathe. So you want to just close your eyes and you breathe in, breathe out, pause, just like you always do. So you're breathing the way you normally do, but now you are taking conscious control of it. So you've introduced an element of consciousness into your breathing. So let's close our eyes and let's do that for a minute. And I'm going to talk you through a few things. So we're just going to breathe in, out, pause. And don't try to copy me, don't try to just breathe the way you normally breathe. And so this is like a triangle. The inhale is one leg of the triangle, the exhale is the second leg of the triangle, and the pause is the base. And maybe your triangle is an equilateral triangle. The inhale and the exhale and the pause are all the same length. So you've got 3 equal sides. But maybe your triangle, your personal breathing, I don't know what the way you breathe naturally, normally, maybe you pause longer than you breathe in. So you've got like an isosceles triangle going on. One leg, the base is longer and the upright is shorter. So, in other words, maybe count your inhale, count your exhale, and count your pause, and just come to know through experience and practice how you breathe. What is your normal, natural breathing rhythm? And then during the week, you can play with it. You can experiment. You can try to, what happens if I lengthen the inhale, or lengthen the exhale, or lengthen the pause, or shorten them. Just play with it. Just experiment. You don't need any teacher for this because you're just experimenting. So you don't need me during the week to just experiment and play with your breath and become more aware of your breath. That's why it's called breath awareness. Because what makes more sense? You're going to get something in an hour on Sunday night that's going to take care of you the rest of the week, or these techniques, work with them during the week, work with them every day. It doesn't have to be a long time, and just get skilled in them, and so you can have a repertoire of techniques that you can use every day, whether it's Sunday Zoom night or not. So then, after you've worked with the triangle for a while, you're going to go to a box breathing. Box breathing is where you breathe in, you pause, you breathe out, you pause. Breathe in, pause, breathe out, pause. And all four legs are the same. It's a square. So if you breathe in for 4 seconds, you pause for 4. If you breathe out for 4, you pause for 4. Well, if you breathe in for 4, you breathe out for 4. So you keep them all the same. And you've introduced a pause that's not usually there. A pause after the inhale. Instead of breathing in, breathing out, pause, you breathe in, pause, breathe out, pause. And the reason for that is that when these triggering situations come up, and this is what I was talking about, integrating the two, talking school and methodology technique school tonight that I was talking about. When these triggering situations come up, you very often, your breath catches. You pause after the inhale. You stop breathing. You get a glitch in your breathing. Because we talk about the mind and the emotions and the body and the breath like they're separate things. Because in order to talk about stuff, we like to divide it up into independent little sections so we can explain each one. Because the truth is just way too complicated for the conceptual mind. Body, mind, breath, the energy field of the body, going back to that contracted energy I was talking about, are all an interconnected holistic whole. Each part affects the other. You can't really separate them out. They're really one thing. And so when you get into a situation where you are buying what the ego is selling and having negative emotions come up, which shows up in your energy body as contracted energy, your breathing will develop a glitch, an inhibition. It's not flowing fully and freely. And very often in kind of like everyday life situations, like having a problem with somebody or getting irritated at how long the line is taking or getting stuck in traffic when you have to be somewhere at a certain time, that usually shows up as you stop breathing after the inhale, a pause after the inhale, but you never notice it. So the thing about one of the main reasons for practicing the box breathing is because that will make you more sensitive to when in your daily life you stop breathing. Now you're going to notice it. A triggering situation comes up and suddenly it's going to hit you. I'm box breathing. I'm pausing after the inhale. You'll notice it because your body will remember from the practice box breathing sessions you were doing with yourself. And that will remind you to take 3 deep breaths to get your breathing going again so that you don't get carried away by the storm, carried away by the whirlwind of all the negativity that's starting to come at you in that triggering situation. You don't have to buy into it. You don't have to go along with it. You don't have to react. You can respond. And the first clue that you're beginning to react and you're beginning to buy the ego's stuff, it's the ego's thought system, is your breathing stops or you pause after the inhale. And so the box breathing will make you able to notice that, whereas before you wouldn't notice it. So then that lets you know I need to get my breathing going again. And you go to box breathing first, because that's what you're doing. That's what you're doing right there in the middle of the triggering event. You are doing box breathing. So now you do it on purpose. You do it deliberately. It's like when your breathing gets out of control, the easiest way to get back in control is just to do what it's doing consciously. So now you're in control, and you're doing your box breathing, and when the inhales and the exhales are the same length, that automatically puts the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems into balance, which automatically induces calm. So right away you're physiologically calming down while you go into your heart and allow yourself to feel the feeling and ask yourself what's really going on here. What am I really feeling? Go in your heart, is this really true? What if it's not? What if I can see this another way? And wait for the energy to transmute, to start feeling good instead of bad, to begin to flow freely instead of being stuck and contracted. And so that's how you can use the breathing techniques with the open mind techniques of looking at, considering the possibility that you can perceive things from a different standpoint, a more liberating standpoint, a standpoint that is free of suffering. So I'll probably be teaching the box breathing again next week, because it's not like you may want to stay with the triangle all week. You may want to stay with the triangle all week. You may be precocious in advance and you can go to the box breathing before the week is up. But you want to get it needs to become an easy habitual thing that you can do without having to think about it. So it's like you can grab it and use it anytime without even, it's like a firefighter in the middle of a burning building and suddenly the ceiling falls down. They need to be able to instinctively, immediately know what to do and not have to figure it out. So when you want to have access to these breathing techniques, you can never spend too much time on the first part before going on to the second, because you want to have it so in your bones that you can grab it whenever you need it. So spend a lot of time on the triangle. Inhale, exhale, pause, see what your natural count is, experiment with changing it, see how that makes you feel, how it feels in your body, how the energy feels, and spend as much time as you need with the triangle. And when you've got that down, go to the box. And as life presents you with opportunities to grow, to choose to respond instead of react, be open to penetrating beneath the surface appearance and feeling what's really going on, because feeling is healing. So I think that's it for tonight. Are there any questions? Wait, sorry. I can't unmute you. You have to unmute yourselves. Um, and I can post this recording if you'd like to, like review during the week. Um,
Oh,
so I was saying if there aren't any questions, are there any questions? And also I can post the recording. I'm gonna stop the record. Do you want to be recorded, Mary? Are you gonna talk?
say that again. I was trying to unmute myself and it wouldn't work because then I forgot I didn't have a touchpad here. Yeah, if you could post the recording, that would be great because I really want to, I really want to listen to it again.
Okay. Well, is it okay if we have this little what you were just saying on there?
Yeah, I don't mind.
Okay, great. Okay, well, thank you. Um, and namaste.
Thank you, Ray.
Good night.
Good
Good
night.
night.
In